Good evening, here's Top News English newsletter starting with headlines. Terrorists' hideouts and gatherings destroyed across Syria. Nasrallah vows Hezbollah backing of Gaza resistance. Gaza fighters infiltrate beyond Zionist troops. And clashes between rival militias in Libya kill 47. Welcome to details. Syrian army units continued Monday military operations against the terrorists' hideouts and gatherings in several provinces, eliminating huge numbers of terrorists and destroying their weaponry. A military source said that army units killed and injured a number of terrorists in Aleppo city and its countryside and destroying their tools. Army troops killed and injured a number of terrorists in Damascus countryside. Army soldiers foiled an armed terrorist group's attempt to infiltrate from Khan el-Sheikh towards the agriculture school in the old road of Quneitra in Damascus countryside, killing a number of terrorists and injuring others. Army units also thwarted two armed terrorist groups' attempts to infiltrate from the north of Qaysar al-Bitar farm toward Atman town and from Da'il towards military checkpoint in Abtah in Dar'a countryside, killing and injuring a number of their members. In Lebanon, leader of Lebanese Islamic resistance movement Hezbollah has pledged support and solidarity with Palestinian resistance movements in their heroic fight against the latest Zionist aggression on the Israeli besieged Gaza Strip. Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance will stand by the Palestinian people's uprising and resistance in our heart, willpower, hope and destiny, said Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah in a Sunday night telephone call to head of Hamas movement Khalid Mash'al, according to Hezbollah's statement on Monday. Sayyid Nasrallah further expressed his movement's support for Hamas' rightful demands to end the current battle against the attacking Israeli forces. The statement said that Mash'al's remarks were reassuring that the Palestinian resistance will remain steadfast and make a second victory in July, God willing. The Hezbollah leader also warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the Palestinian resistance was stronger than he thinks. In occupied Palestine, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has said that a group of its fighters has infiltrated southern lands of the occupied territories from a tunnel in the northern Gaza Strip. The operation was in retaliation for the massacre in the Shuja'iyya neighborhood of Gaza City on Sunday, Hamas said on Monday. The Azz-ad-Din Qassam brigades managed to attack Israeli troops, Hamas said, adding that the fighters destroyed an Israeli military jeep. The brigades announced that the Gaza fighters have infiltrated lines of Israeli troops since the beginning of their ground military aggression into Gaza on Thursday. The resistance fighters were intent on inflicting heavy losses on the Israeli military ranks within their own turf. Residents in Kesofim and nearby areas in southern occupied territories were told to stay in their homes by Israeli authorities, and a main highway to Asqalan area of Beit Lahaya was closed. Some Israeli casualties were finally reported by the regime's media outlets, although their underestimated figure are in conflict with relatively larger number reported by Palestinian resistance fighters. Moreover, in occupied Palestine, Azz-ad-Din Qassam brigades, the military wing of the Palestinian Islamic resistance movement Hamas, has confirmed capturing an intruding Zionist soldier in the besieged Gaza Strip. The Israeli soldier Sholaron is in the hands of the Qassam brigades, a spokesman using the Namduger Abu Ubaidah said in a televised address late Sunday, as he announced that the soldier's military number was 609-2065. The brigade spokesman said that the Zionist enemy was not honest while talking about the number of the killed soldiers during the Israeli ground assault on Gaza. The shock of the operation had forced the enemy to announce some of its losses. However, the fact which the enemy has not announced yet is the abduction of one of its soldiers, Abu Ubaidah stated. If the enemy leadership could lie about the number of the killed and injured soldiers, it should now tell its people the fate of this Israeli soldier now. Al-Qassam Brigade spokesman added. The announcement comes after the Zionist regime announced the death of 13 occupation soldiers during the ground assault against Gaza. The region comes out parallel with his high. Obama spoke Sunday by telephone with Israel. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry traveled to Cairo early Monday for crisis talks on Gaza following President Barack Obama's call for an immediate ceasefire between Israelis and the Palestinians. The U.S. top diplomat is scheduled to meet with senior officials from Egypt and other countries, the State Department said, in a bid to halt a blistering land, sea and air assault that has sent thousands of terrified civilians fleeing their homes. Kerry will seek an immediate cessation of hostilities based on a return to the November 2012 ceasefire agreement, the White House said, stressing the need to protect civilian life both in Gaza and in Israel. According to the State Department, Kerry supports Egypt's initiative to bring about a ceasefire. His visit to the region comes in parallel with a high-profile peace mission by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Obama spoke Sunday by telephone with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to express his serious concern after more than 100 Palestinians and 13 Israeli soldiers were killed in the bloodiest day since the Gaza offensive was launched. The United Nations Human Rights Council will hold an emergency session on Israel's assault on Gaza Wednesday at the request of Egypt, Palestine and Islamic States, a UN statement said on Monday. Egypt's request, made on behalf of the Arab group of countries, was backed by the requisite minimum of 16 member states of the 47-member forum, including China, Russia and Saudi Arabia, it said. Israeli forces killed at least 10 Palestinian Gaza fighters Monday after they crossed the border from Gaza through 2 tunnels, the military said, as the death toll from the 2-week conflict passed 500. In Iraq, attacks overnight in 2 Iraqi cities killed at least 16 people, officials said on Monday, as authorities struggled to stop the Takfiri militants' offensive that has left huge areas in northern and western Iraq outside of government control. In one of the attacks, mortar rounds rained down on Shiite neighborhoods in the town of Mahmoudiyah Sunday night, killing 11 civilians and wounding 31, a police official said. The mixed Shiite-Sunni town is about 30 kilometers south of Baghdad. And in Baghdad, western suburb of Abu Ghraib, a roadside bomb struck an army patrol, killing 2 soldiers and 3 volunteers who took up arms following the Takfiri militant push across Iraq in recent weeks. 8 people were wounded in the attack, said the police official. The medical officials confirmed the casualty figures. All officials spoke on condition of anonymity as they were not authorized to talk to media. In Libya, Libya's health ministry says clashes between rival militias fighting for control of the international airport in the capital Tripoli have killed 47 people over the past 24 hours. The ministry said on its website late Sunday that the fighting also left 120 people wounded. It also says that it hasn't yet received all casualty reports. The week-long battle over the airport is being waged by a powerful militia from the western city of Zintan, which controls the facility, and Islamist-led militias including fighters from Misrata east of Tripoli. The clashes resumed Sunday after ceasefire efforts failed. Libya is going through one of its worst spasms of violence since the 2011 ouster of the long-time Muammar al-Qaddafi. Rival militias have forced a week-long closure of gas stations and government offices. And in Iran has diluted its entire stock of medium-enriched uranium as required under a November deal with world powers, the UN Atomic Agency said in its latest report. Even as talks to reach a nuclear deal with Iran were extended beyond an initial July 20 deadline, the International Atomic Energy Agency said that Tehran was standing by its international commitments. As agreed under a so-called Joint Plan of Action reached in November, the Islamic Republic has cut half of its stock of 20% enriched uranium down to 5% purity. The rest was being converted into uranium oxide. Tehran also refrained from enriching above the 5% level at any of its nuclear facilities, the agency report said. Iran and world powers have been trying to reach a crucial nuclear deal to alleviate international fears that Tehran is seeking a nuclear weapon. Iran has, however, always insisted its nuclear program was solely for peaceful purposes. Uranium must be enriched to 90% to make an atomic bomb, but 20% purity levels are just a short step from producing weapons-grade material. Under the November interim deal, Iran and the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany agreed that Tehran would freeze certain nuclear activities for 6 months in return for some sanctions relief. The West's goal to expand the time needed for Iran to develop a nuclear weapon, giving the world ample warning of any such breakout push. And finally, in Ukraine, fighting raged near the railway station in the rebel-held city of Donetsk in eastern Ukraine on Monday, and witnesses saw plumes of smoke and heard loud explosions from the area around the station in the city center. A pro-Russian separatist leader said Ukrainian forces were trying to break into Donetsk, and a witness saw 2 rebel tanks heading towards the railway station, driving against a steady flow of people running away. Sergei Gaftaradze, an official of the rebel self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, said that there were at least 4 tanks and armored vehicles trying to break through into the city. A spokesman for the Ukrainian military operations in eastern Ukraine said that the operation was in an active phase but could not comment on reports of troops entering Donetsk because he did not want to give away the Ukrainian strategy. A Malaysian airliner was shut down in eastern Ukraine on Thursday, increasing calls for an end to fighting in the Russian-speaking region. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dima Yunus. Good night.